Data. It's the crucial ingredient for insurance and reinsurance and the key to understanding and predicting the future. Let's hear from Bastien Albertus, Global Chief Data Officer at SCOR, how they put data at the core and use it as a strategic differentiator, and how data quality and governance form the foundation to successfully leveraging AI. Please welcome Bastien Albertus.
I'm very happy to be on stage today. I hope you had a good day so far. So my name is Bastien Albertus. I work for SCOR. I'm Chief Data Officer of SCOR globally, and I'm also Chief Architect, so that means that I have a tech hat and a data hat at SCOR. Just before I walk you through SCOR's data journey, I will just give you an introduction of SCOR. I don't know if you know SCOR. I like to say that SCOR most spoken language is Python. SCOR is a pure data company. We are a global reinsurer, tier 1. We operate across life and health and P&C. And the very specific thing at SCOR is that everyone is a data people. We have actuaries, we have data scientists, we have data engineers. So that's a very interesting field when you work in the data world. A very good place to be. Data is core to SCOR, and what it means is that our strategic plan, which is called Forward 2026, fully articulates around data. We believe we can generate more value to our clients through data. We believe also that we can become a smarter company, a more efficient company as well, leveraging data, of course AI, but we need data to leverage AI. Before I walk you through what we do on the data side and our data strategy, I'm just going to introduce some of the challenges we have to overcome when it comes to data, of course. There is this dream of data as a Babylonian language, but that's not that easy. We have to overcome multiple challenges, and some of the challenges, they are very traditional. I'm sure you've seen a lot of insurtechs today, and probably you've seen in your different fields the same challenges, which are linked to the legacy systems, to the information system, some of the boring stuff as well on the data governance side of things. But there are also new challenges, in particular with the technology revolution, which we are seeing with AI over the last months, and that's some of the things I will focus on. I'm not probably the traditional data guy in town. I'd rather quote philosophers than quoting technology people like Inman, Kimball, of course, data warehouse, godfathers. I won't be quoting too much Yann Lequin and this type of guys as well, which have their trends, even if I'm French, and I like Yann Lequin a lot, of course. One of the key things I like to say about data is that it's about time and history. One of the key challenges we have is, of course, our information system. And the way I see it is really as a collection of snapshots that we have, but to collect those snapshots, we've used multiple cameras, but those cameras, they are not easy connecting together, so we have to struggle connecting the cameras to have the full picture of what we do. In other words, and how it translates at SCOR, is that, of course, we have to deal with a multitude of sources that we have built over time. So, of course, as a reinsurer, we are living in a big data, we are processing a huge volume of data. One of the gifts when you're a reinsurer is that you really have crap data by design, because you receive data from your cedents, and that's a bit of a museum of data formats, data models. So that's very complicated to process that data, to get value out of that data, and to, of course, be able to rely on that data. Some of the types of data we manipulate is, of course, at SCOR, we like to say that SCOR is the art and science of risk. So it's also a way for us to say that the real capital of SCOR is the people of SCOR. So a lot of our data sits within the brain of our colleagues. That's something very complicated, but a lot of what we do is really personal. A lot of the thinking of the actuaries is also on their own laptop. So that's very complex to treat, even if that data exists. So that's one source. The other source, of course, is the code we produce. There is a lot of value in the code we produce. We use multiple languages. We try to streamline. We try to speak the same language. I mentioned Python, but Python is unfortunately not the only one we use. But there is value out of the code that we produce as a company and an organization. Of course, there are spreadsheets. Of course, there are multiple databases. And of course, there are a lot of things we collect from IoTs, from external sources, of course. And the very traditional challenge is to be able to get value out of this multitude of sources, to get them together, and to create data models that are eligible to getting value out of data. So that's really, I would say, a traditional challenge. Of course, this comes with multiple, I would say, dimensions. We have very granular data, we have very aggregated data. So that's very complex. What we end up having, and I think a lot of companies in the FSI world are having the same issue, is that we have what I call data workers, so people that spend their day manipulating the data, transforming the data to make it fit a data model, which is pre-existing, of course, and they spend a lot of time doing this. They also try to get more value, more quality out of this data, so that at the end of the day, we can have performing actual models, we can have performing AI models as well, and of course, good applications. So that's, I would say, the very traditional challenge. And at SCOR, we have it. We have more than 80 information systems. We have a huge volume of data. We have, of course, multiple teams across the globe that are working in different ways. So that's really a very complex challenge. On the other hand, and I work as a tech guy in an organization, I really believe that technology has become a commodity. So probably when I started my career 20 years ago, it was really a differentiator to have a strong tech team, to have a performing technology in place. Now, if you have probably that legacy, which is not very good, you can abstract that complexity very easily or relatively easily, just leveraging cloud computing solutions. So that's not that complicated. One of the illustrations of this is really on the AI side. We've embraced AI very early. We were trailblazers in the AI world, machine learning world. We have specialists within SCOR that are building models for years now, serving our clients, serving our operations. But we are, of course, progressively shifting to using more, I would say, LLMs, traditional, which we take out of the shelf. Of course, we are seeing value in the usages of those LLMs, but we see no interest in building our own LLMs or building our own smart model language. It doesn't make any sense for us. What makes sense is really the selection of use cases, and I would say the smart prudence in selecting the right partners to do so. So that's really also something which is changing the game, because on the one hand, we have this huge volume of data, those assets with our information systems, but on the other hand, we have that, I would say, crazy world when we can easily get a solution to achieve our goals. Then we end up reaching the second challenge which we have. Once again, I told you I would quote philosophers. The first quote was from Hegel. Now I will quote a French philosopher, I'm sorry, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He wrote a book which is called Du contrat social, which is presenting the transition from the state of nature of humans. So basically, we just fight with each other every time to eat, to live, etc., etc. And we transition to a social world. So that's the organization, that's the society where everyone has a role, etc., etc. This is really how I see data, because everyone would like to have a common language, but we also like to have our own language. I've read a book, and I was at a conference in Paris last week, and Yann Lequin was there. I said I would not speak about Yann Lequin, but I will speak about Yann Lequin. And Yann Lequin said that LLMs liked to create languages, so you have LLMs talking to other LLMs, creating languages that are not understandable for humans. This is really how I see data. This is very complicated because everyone is looking at its own data, is transforming that data, so accessing data within an organization and within a reinsurer like us is very complex, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges which we have. So it's not technology, it's really human. So now I will tell you how we deal with this at SCOR. So data strategy is structured around 4 pillars. The first pillar is people. People is really, as a SCOR employee, what's my role? What should I do with the data? How do I share my data? How do I help my colleagues benefit from what I produce or what I use? So that's really the first pillar. The second pillar is our culture. Once again, reinsurance is about expertise. If you look at P&C, you have a specialist of very small verticals. That's the same on the life and health side. That's very complicated for employees to understand that there is value to share data to others, to not rebuild your own data source, but to share it. And that's really that culture. So we do a lot on the culture side. I will explain how we do it, but that's really the second pillar of our strategy. The third pillar is paper. So part of the job of a chief data officer is really to help write policies, to help structure, organize the data. We also spend a lot of energy in the documentation. There is a lot of value, especially if you're a developer and you want to access a specific data set. If you don't have to go to the team that has produced that data set, but you understand from the documentation what you can do with it. Like if you were just using an API which is ready for use, that's of course of a lot of value. And the fourth pillar, which probably is the most powerful, is really our data platform. Through that data platform, which also I will tell you a bit about in some time, which is a mix of technologies, we really have two concepts which are very strong. Data as product. I'm sure you heard about data as product, but that's really a strong concept at SCOR. And the second concept is really data applications that we make available to everyone. Data products, to make it probably more illustrative, is really that ability to have a clear mapping of the whole life cycle of data. So that's really the supply chain, from accessing the data, modeling the data, to the usage. So anyone using data should understand where the data is coming from. You have to have trust in the data that you use. And that's really that concept of product. Behind that idea of product as well, there is the reusability of the data. One of the key challenges for us is really to avoid people to recreate new data sets, but to reuse data sets that others are producing for them. So we really try to capture the usages that are required by our colleagues. And to do so, we really need to have a strong supply chain. That supply chain relies on specific concepts. The stronger concept is really data objects. The other more philosophical term of data object is really the way we structure a network of objects, which we call the ontology. In other words, we try to create a digital twin of SCOR, which is really representing SCOR, but in a digital way. So we really try to, I would say, go beyond the traditional way of structuring a data warehouse where you have a model, but that model is very specific to a specific usage on historic data. We really try to really capture the context so we can get more value out of the data, more value out of the product, the application we build, the AI models we build, etc., etc. So data object is really at the core of what we do. The second concept is really data workflows. I told you that we have a lot of data workers, so really people that spend their day manipulating data sets, transforming those data sets, ensuring that those data sets, they are reusable by colleagues. One of the things we really try to do is to automate those workflows, provide capabilities to people to automate what they do so they can spend more time in understanding the value, working with their colleagues to leverage more usages than on just manipulating, transforming the data in a repetitive way. So that's really what we try to avoid. And to do so, we build data contracts. The idea of a data contract is very easy. You understand who produces the data, you understand who uses the data, and you try to capture what people want to do with it. Anytime you have a new usage, you can refer to those contracts if they are public. So if you need something, you can see if there is a previous contract that exists that you can just reuse. Or if it's not enough for you, you can just add specific attributes, specific field on the data that you require. And this is how, over time, we try to build a single source of truth. The way the architecture is structured is really like this. So to make it very simple, at the core we have what I call the ontology. So that's really that network of objects. So that's the representation of SCOR. SCOR is this. The operation of SCOR are these. The actors of SCOR are that. The clients of SCOR, this is how they interact with SCOR. And around this, on the left-hand side, you have basically the sources, everything you need to be able to perform on the right-hand side, the usages that we have. Usages, they can be anything. They can be an application. They can be just a process, operational process. They can be something that serves a client need. I mentioned the social contract. So everyone needs to have a role at SCOR. And we really try to structure the role of people in a specific way. So we really distinguish what people are doing. Once again, we have a strong principle, which is everyone should have an easy access to data. I really see the role of my team as a role to distribute the data, so make it accessible to everyone. And we distinguish between the different roles. So one of the roles is really the traditional one, the guardians, so people ensuring that we comply with regulation, that everything we do is OK from a regulation perspective. So those people, they have a read-only right on the data. They have an easy access to the data. They can't, of course, transform the data, but they will ensure that the data and the way we use the data is compliant with any regulation. We also have data stewards. Data stewards, they are business stakeholders. We want the data to be curated as close as possible from the people that are producing it and using it. So this is not a central team ensuring that the data quality is there. It's really people ensuring that the data they produce or they use is of quality. And around that, we consider that everyone is a citizen. So within the citizens, you can have someone that just needs an extract of a specific data set to do specific analytics for a specific meeting. This is a very simple use. But you can also, once again, I told you SCOR is a data company. So we have people in the team, in the organization that needs to have more rights, more power, I would say. And we provide them with capabilities to act as a developer. So they can then build their own applications, distribute those applications also in a very seamless and transparent way to the organization. And that's how we really structure the roles. Once again, we want everyone to have an easy access to data. Those roles, they align with the concept of data governance. So once again, it's really the RACI, what you do, what you can do, what you cannot do. And that's really a structure. Once again, organizing the governance of the data is not a funny topic. It's not a sexy topic. So it's not easy to attract people with data governance. It's easier when you transform it into a product way. So we're not very far in that journey so far, but we are starting to really introduce also for governance the product concept. So we really try to address the governance as if anyone having a role, so the role I depicted, a data steward, a data guardian, was a user of a framework. So we really try to provide, leveraging just the use cases on which we work, capabilities, features as a product, for them to understand what their role is about, what they can do, what they cannot do, what are the tools they can use, how they can onboard their colleagues, etc., etc. That's really that concept. It relies on strong pillars. Among the pillars that we have is really ensuring that the data which is served at the end of the day is something that has interpretability, so it's easy to understand. You can trace it once again, so it really relies on what I depicted beforehand. That the data has the quality, and also that the data is accessible to everyone. Once again, accessible doesn't mean that everyone has access to everything. But by design, everyone should have access to everything, unless there is a specific rule, there is a specific challenge, a specific risk, which we need to address, of course, and then it will reduce the access. That framework is there to help people understand that if I sit in that location, I can access to this and I can have the view on this level of granularity, but if I live in this other location, then I can't. It's not easy. If you are just a business stakeholder, you have no clue of what someone in France can do and what someone, I don't know, in the US cannot do on the same data set. We have to make it easy. The last thing is really incident management. Once again, just like an app which you use, you need to understand why you don't have access to data, what happened on the data, why the quality is not there when you were expecting it to be at this level, why the quality is not there. So we really try to provide the features for every steward to be able to then accompany any colleague in understanding the incidents that happened. From an architecture or technology perspective, the approach we took is really kind of a data hub. So we've not structured a data platform as something that wraps and extracts data from systems. We really try to have a seamless, embedded architecture. So it all started with, I would say, API-centric way, where we really mix up, on the one end, the transactions. So all the applications that are serving the transactions, we want them to be exposed via APIs. So that makes it easier for anyone to access the data from the transaction. So some of the data, through the data contracts, they go into the data platform. Some are just used from a transactional perspective because I need data from this system to perform, I don't know, claims management or whatever on the writing process. So that's really, I would say, the foundation. And on top, we've built a data platform, which is, I would say, modern data stack. So all of the curation, all of the suppletion is supported by a specific technology. What we use as SCOR is a mix of Databricks and Palantir Foundry. And basically, we use the two technologies which are combined to serve, of course, the purpose that I tried to depict to you beforehand. The two last things, once again, I said our strategy has 4 pillars. One of the pillars is really the culture. You have to make those topics attractive. You have to think about people that have to live in that world. Once again, I'm an underwriter. I have no clue of the data I can share to people. Maybe I don't have really a lot of attraction in the data governance topic. So if someone from the data team is coming to me to ask me to do something, I need to have something in it for me. So we've really structured that strategy, thinking about, as an employee, what do I get out of that effort? And we basically have 2 main pillars which we're trying to put in place. The first is really creating events. We had the first event at the beginning of the year, which we called the Data Live event, which was really the introduction of the data platform. We tried to leverage and embrace that data journey, and we created teams from the business, working with the engineering team, with the data team, to build the application. So over 2 days, we built with the team, so people from SCOR, they built 8 prototypes that have proven that as an organization, we were able to have an interesting velocity, and we were able to use that technology not as, an additional tool at SCOR, where at SCOR we have a lot of tools, but something that really makes sense from a business perspective. We try to really attract and create interest. This has been relatively successful because we reached an engagement of 90% of the employees of SCOR. So 90% of the employees of SCOR, they at least participated to the event, to the end of the event, or to a moment in the event, so that was very successful. In the next months, we will now focus more on the data governance side. So we started by the fun stuff, the technology one. Now we will focus on the less fun stuff, which is the data governance side. We will have also people from outside SCOR that will provide their, I would say, success stories and how data governance and the effort on data governance with the business has been helpful to deliver more value out of data. So that's going to be the next one. And the last lever that we have is really to make that data not a tech thing. So we don't want people to go on Databricks and then to use Python or SQL to query their data. We don't want to make it a tech topic. We want to make it, I would say, a seamless experience. So we've basically mixed up various concepts. We've created an app which is called the SCOR Data Shop, which is a kind of an e-commerce for data. So you basically type the data you want, and you explain basically what you need from it. It's a way to interact in a simple way with the data team. So I sit in that location. I need to have access to that data set. I don't know who to go to. I have a space to go to. I need that data. I need to understand what the data is made up of. I need to see the lineage of that data. I need to understand how it's been produced. I need to see if it reached the metric I want from a quality perspective. I have an easy access to it. I want to access that app. We have an issue management app which we have developed, and that's the risk team that has developed that app. I would like to have that access to that app. Where should I go? Should I go to IT? Should I go to data? Should I go to the risk team? No, I can go on the App Store of that application. And the last concept that we have tried to mix in that product is really kind of an academy for data, where we try to have people from SCOR illustrating how they practice, how they build products, how they use the different technology sets that we've put in place, coming from that, we'd say, rich ecosystem of different technologies. So people from SCOR can learn from other people from SCOR how best they can leverage that data platform. Thank you, and have a good rest of the day.